So thank you to everyone for joining us today. Thanks, Dawn, and thanks, Diana, for the introduction. We are here to talk a little bit about creative technology or assistive technology in the home, and so that we can be safe and smart at home. So today's agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about gadgets and gizmos. You know, might as well call it something fun. And also about apps. And we're going to talk about smart home technology, some funding options, and then the role of the home and equipment coordinator here at Hamilton County. So without further ado, and Molly or any of the other speakers, please jump in as needed. So some of the things that I wanted to talk about, so my role is with SSAs who serve the children's team. So everyone on the team that I supervise, they're all still in school. So some of the products that parents have found and asked for us to pay for recently have been pretty creative, interesting pieces of equipment. And I thought, we've shared that with other parents, and some of these ideas have really caught on, and there's been a lot of excitement about the kinds of technology that's out there and available to help kids and adults. And the phone's ringing. Nothing's perfect, right? Okay, sorry about that. One of the first things I wanted to show you is the Ellie Grid, which is a pillbox. They call it the pillbox with beauty and brains. And you can see a picture of it here. So it is not a typical pillbox or a pill minder with all those little lids. The person who developed this wanted something that was much, much easier to fill. This would not work for everyone, but it could work for some people. And so it allows you to take that device that's here, and you set it up by just pouring your pills right into those spots, and rather than laying them out. And so you organize your pills, and then you can program alarms using an app on your phone. And so you say which pills need to be taken, how many, and when. And when the time comes for a pill to be taken, you'll receive an alarm on your phone, and also the pill box itself will ring. And if you can see there's some little lights on the screen. You take the pills according to what is lit up on the screen. So in that case, there's one pill in the upper left-hand corner and two pills from kind of the middle bottom row there. And so you basically follow the lights, and this would help somebody to be independent with their medication. If the pill box isn't opened, if Ellie Grid isn't opened, then it does send a text message alert to natural supports to let them know that the pills weren't taken. And so this is a great option for people who have that level of independence because it is a lot easier to use, and looks, the person who created it felt like it was a little less stigmatizing and looked like a beauty accessory. That's what she called it. So that's one interesting option that some families have started to look into if that works for someone you know. The other item here on the slide is called Mightier. And Mightier is geared towards, it's a video game with biofeedback mechanisms set up in it. And so you can see the picture there. There's actually a heart rate monitor that the children wear on their wrist, and it measures their heart rate. And it comes with a video game, and what they teach the children through that video game is that when you are faced with challenges, your heart rate rises, and there are things that you can do to regulate that heart rate and to bring that down. And so the child places the heart rate monitor on their arm, and as the video game gets harder and there's more challenges, that biofeedback mechanism notices their heart rate going up, and it actually will shut the video game down, basically pause it until the child learns to regulate their heart rate right there during the video game. And so as they learn, the whole program package teaches things like deep breathing and other skills to center yourself and be self-aware and to calm down. And so once your body is calm and your heart rate has gone back down, then the video game will come back on and you can continue to play it. So it basically teaches skills about regulating emotions and regulating your heart rate, all in a real-time game, which can then translate into other real life situations, such as transitioning from homework or being asked to do something, clean up a room or other challenges. When you're feeling those big emotions, this can help children to learn mechanisms to calm themselves. So this has a lot of research backing with Boston Hospital and Harvard, and they have a lot of data behind this. So that's an interesting gadget. Some other ones that families have really been interested in is the TikTok watch. So this is a smartwatch phone. It has GPS, it has text, it has calling abilities, and it has cameras on it. And one of the things that I think families like about this one is both the GPS abilities, which allow them to know where folks are, but also if somebody isn't able to read quite yet for whatever reason, you can send, rather than text messages, you can send voice clips. So you can tell a loved one how, make sure that you're home by a certain time, and that the loved one can voice text back, essentially. So this has been a really popular item that has met the needs of a lot of parents, but we've also had some adults that have been interested in this as well.
Lisa,
and then yes.
Really quickly, somebody was asking, My Dear is cool and the idea is useful for adults too. I wonder if there's a similar idea for adults.
Yeah, I mean, everybody likes video games. My husband is an adult. He still plays video games. So I think there's a ton of different video games, and we have talked about using this with older people too. I don't think that it has to stick with kids. I think it just depends on if you're the person who likes to sit down and play video games. So I think that's very true. That's a good point. Thanks for bringing that up. And then this last device I wanted to talk about is Goalie, which has been very popular lately. The makers of Goalie felt like apps are good for, and again, this one is geared towards kids, but they do have a case that you can put on this device that makes it look a little bit more grown up. It makes it look like just a regular cell phone. But what they found was that if you put, and I would say this is true, if you put an app on your phone that leads you through routines and, completing a series of steps, kids get very distracted, and within 5 minutes, they're over there on YouTube watching cartoons. And so the makers of Goalie felt like they would like to have a standalone device to help kids learn routines and build independence and get more independence. Because a lot of times what they found was that it was creating a lot of tension for parents to constantly remind kids, stay on task, stay on task, stay on task. And that was causing just a lot of, just difficult feelings between, and this device takes the parent nagging essentially out of it, And so you have this device that can lead a child through a series of tasks, whether that be a routine task. So you can set up the device to run routine things, like every single morning at 6:30, we get up, we get dressed, we brush our teeth, we come down for breakfast. So it has set routines that you can put in, but it also has routines that a parent from the parent's phone can implement at any given time. So say there's a cleanup routine. When we're done playing with our toys, we clean up. And so after the child is done playing with their toys, whenever that is, the parent can then push the cleanup routine onto the device and take the child through those steps. And so it has things like rewards built in, and it basically is a great device for taking somebody through a series of different kinds of routines. Both Goalie and Mightier have wonderful tech support as well. We've had some families using Goalie already, and when they get stuck, they call the tech support, and they have behavior specialists on their tech support, and they will help a family completely set up routines, because these kinds of things can be, they look really good, but you have to also make sure that you're ready for the time and energy investment of setting up all these routines and using the technology to its fullest extent. So it's nice to have somebody that you can call and say, I forgot how to set up a routine, or this one routine isn't working. Is there something that you could help me with? But this Goalie device is about the size of a cell phone, and a person could carry that around, keep it in their pocket, and then it has alarms and things like that to prompt people to start a routine. So when we send out this PowerPoint at the end, if you click on the picture of the device, it'll take you to a video that shows you sort of how it works. And then also the websites are listed here, and those are hyperlinks so that you can go straight to learn a little bit more about the devices. Are there any questions from the chat, Dawn, that I should know about?
Diana, you had a question. You said, what about if you live on your own? Were you talking about the pill, the
Yeah.
first? Okay.
Do they have like a person that can help you, another one?
I'm not sure if they do. I could look into that. I think that the idea is, this is a pillbox that it would require some independence or having someone help you set it up. And then it also does have does send text alerts to natural supports. So if you didn't open the pillbox up and take a pill, your friend or your family member could call you and say, did you forget to take the pill? Do you need any help? Are you doing okay? And help somebody that way.
So it doesn't have to be a person in the home?
No,
Okay.
not at all. Yep. Any other questions about those?
I feel like the Goalie would be really effective for adults with autism, or even maybe even on the job, because I know there's that one feature where, like, if you're supposed to be focusing on a task for a certain period of time, it'll prompt, are you still doing this? And you click yes, which kind of reinforces that you're still on task, and it gives you something to do to say, yeah, I'm still focusing. So I think that while these things are marketed maybe towards children, it's often things that are created for children that we can adapt in how we use them to support anybody who has these types of support needs, because I could probably use the Goalie in my life, and I know I can use it with my family to try and get the morning routine going more smoothly. So
yeah, that's a great point, Molly. Yeah, and I do think the fact that, you know, I have seen adults using all of these devices, even though they are marketed towards kids. And I think that it's wonderful that Goalie does have that option to put, you know, to make the device look a little bit more like a typical adult's phone. So I wouldn't hesitate to use it. It says it's marketed towards the developmental ages of 4 to 12. So I think it's definitely something we've seen adults using, and I think that's great, because it would be great on the job, or it requires somebody on the other side using the app on their phone to put all these routines in. And I think that a job coach or any number of people could assist with that. So.
all right, so I'm going to be talking about apps today, and I just want to put a disclaimer that I will never be able to give you a comprehensive list of apps. Apps are changing every day. More and more they're being developed every day, which is a great thing. I once heard a lecturer who said that people are not disabled by their bodies, but by the environment not being accessible. And I will say that before COVID, I think it was people with disabilities felt that inaccessibility more than everybody else. But with COVID, I feel like it's even the playing field on a lot of different levels, because now everybody is experiencing that it's hard to get out and shop, and that it's hard to get groceries to your home, and that it's hard to get food from your favorite restaurants with these limitations that COVID has put on us. And so I think that there's a big positive to that, because more and more people are making everyday life more accessible. And much of the time, it's the app that makes things more accessible. So sometimes we think, oh, let's find a piece of equipment that will fix this problem. But oftentimes, as long as you have a smartphone or a tablet of some sort, all you need to find is the right app that will solve whatever the everyday problem is that you have. So for example, shopping and saving, I will say last year when we kind of did a review of apps, only Walmart would accept EBT for pickup groceries. But now this year, Kroger will accept food stamps for both pickup and delivery. Amazon accepts food stamps now for grocery delivery, and Walmart accepts food stamps for grocery pickup. So you can be at your home, you or your natural supporter family member, or whoever is supporting you, if you're not able to do it independently, can help you put your groceries together at home. And what I love about doing that too is it really helps you stay on budget. So if there's somebody who, when you get to the grocery store, you really want everything you see, and then you get to the checkout and you don't have enough money for it, and that causes a lot of anxiety. What the nice thing about shopping at home is you can put it all into your cart, see how much it is, understand how much you have, and then take things away to see how you're getting into budget. So that is it's a great way to make it more accessible, both from a budgeting standpoint and from a shopping and getting it to you standpoint. Amazon Prime gives you a ton of different, like, movie streaming, music streaming, again, like delivering things quickly, delivering fresh groceries day of or the next day. And you can get discounted membership if you have Medicaid or food stamps. So that makes it even more accessible there, which I think is great. From a social perspective, Food Forest is a locally developed app. That's great. So that supports local food, which is an amazing thing. Thank you, Heather. For social things, again, like, we all want to be able to eat out. We want to be able to socialize. And when we can't go to restaurants like we maybe could have before, we can still get that food using DoorDash or Grubhub or Uber Eats. Those have been super popular. And it also allows you to continue supporting those local businesses that you like. If you want to have a movie night, but you can't go to the theater, you could either use Netflix or Amazon Prime, but you can also use your library card through the Hoopla app, and you can check out movies, music, and audiobooks on your phone or your tablet. And you can also connect those to your TV. So those are great ways of making kind of social things more accessible through apps. I think also through COVID, we have seen, if we didn't have technology, we would not be meeting right now for Home Think Tank. If we didn't have technology, I think a lot of us would feel way more isolated. So we have apps like Google Duo. If you don't have iPhones, if you have Google phones, that is like the Google Duo version of FaceTime. You would both download that, and then you can do a face-to-face conversation via your phones. There's FaceTime if you both have iPhones. There's Zoom, obviously, which is what we're using now. And then there's Facebook Messenger, which sometimes that's the kind of the go-to, because if everybody has Facebook, we all might have different types of tech, but if you have Facebook Messenger, you can do a video chat, which sometimes even has better connection than a lot of the phones. Marco Polo is an app that it's similar to Snapchat, which is very popular amongst our younger people these days. But Marco Polo is like sending a short video clip. So if you see something that makes you think of somebody, you can video something and send it to them quickly, and it only stays there for like an hour. So it's not constantly there. But I will say we had somebody who was supported by our behavior supports team who has been using Marco Polo to stay in touch with his family, and he loves it because he can just play those little clips over and over again and he just loves seeing his family when he can't see them in person as much as he would like to. So that makes kind of communication a little more fun and spontaneous. All of these things are great and available to everybody, but there are also apps that you can use in conjunction with these to make these more accessible. So it's my pet peeve that not everything has captions built in, but luckily there are apps that you can use to make things captioned if it's not already captioned for you. So there's apps like Ava. Ava is it's a live captioning app that can it captions essentially conversations in real time. There's InnoCaption, and I have a handout that Don will send that has more of these specific things listed, but InnoCaption assigns a dedicated phone number to somebody so that when you call them, the phone call is automatically captioned so they can read it and read what you're saying so that they can speak back to you. And the conversation is fairly fluid. There is sometimes a delay because somebody's typing it all, but it makes it more possible for people to communicate with just everyday tech, as opposed to having in the past, you would have to call into this like sign language interpreter line, and both people would have to call in and wait to connect, and it was very cumbersome. So this is just like you call this phone number and it's automatically captioned. For transportation and navigation, sometimes I feel like when there are glitches and things not being accessible, we don't realize that there are ways to make things more accessible. So for example, Google Maps, if you're worried about where your family member is, but you don't want to always call them or text them and like interrupt them and embarrass them to see where they are, but you do just want to know that they're okay and know that they're where you feel like they should be. Google Maps is just a simple way to do that. If you both have Google Maps on your phone and you allow the person to see your location, you can go on that map at any time and it'll show you exactly where the person is. So I do that on my husband all the time when I'm like, he should be home by now. And I want to see if he's even left work yet, or if he stopped at the store before he came home, because that will irritate me, but I don't necessarily want to call him. I'll just open up the Google Maps and I'll see that he is a minute away, and then I can kind of calm down before he walks in the door. But it is, you have to allow the person, so he has consented to me doing that. So at any time we could turn that off, but it is a great way for you to kind of keep tabs on where people are without necessarily having to call them and reach out to them. Obviously Uber and Lyft, while they do have their glitches, make getting rides on demand way more accessible. And there are transit apps also that if you're taking public transportation and you get turned around and you get off at the wrong stop and you're discombobulated, you can get onto the app and it will locate you based on where you are, and you can put your end address and it'll tell you the route that you should take to get home. It can also tell you, like in preparation, it'll tell you which exit to get off at. It'll tell you what time your bus will leave, when you need to transfer. Those might take a bit more help teaching the person how to use it, but it is also compatible with screen readers. So anything that you're using can be read to you via other apps. I think Robert will talk about in a second. I saw a question come up about, what is the app to use instead of the interpreter service? Ava app, AVA. We have several SSAs with our agency who need captioning for their calls and just their everyday work. And I will tell you, like, we had it all situated and then COVID hit, and it was really hard to find the video chat option that was also live captioned. And it was getting really cumbersome for people to be reading these long conversations that normally they would have been able to have in person and kind of read people's lips while being with them to understand what was being said. So we were very grateful to find the Ava app because it is compatible. It doesn't have to be within the Zoom or the Facebook app or whatever you're using for the FaceTime element. It can just caption it while you're a part of that Zoom meeting or whatever. So you don't have to worry about someone else setting that up for you too if they're setting up the meeting. Oh, free gal for music downloads. I mean, I'm telling you, apps are the way to go. They're making the world more accessible. And I really do feel that there are some benefits to COVID. I think that the everyday population is realizing how inaccessible our world was. And so now I think more and more accessibility is being considered. So I think that once we move to the other side of this, I think things will be a bit more equitable, at least I'm hoping, in terms of accessibility. And I think that apps will play a huge role in that. Okay, Robert, I have the Seeing AI, JAWS, and Soundscape apps that you mentioned, if you want to talk through those here.
Sure. I'm Robert Shoemaker. I am with Hamilton County DD Services as well. I'm an app. I'm an app. I'm an advocate with the A-Life team, one of the advocates. I'm visually impaired. I use a power chair for mobility. So I use apps daily for navigation, to get news information, anything you can think of, there's an app for. The first one, Seeing AI, is a app that has multiple uses built in. It has what they call short text, where you can take the camera, take a picture of a piece of mail, and it'll let me know whether it's mine or not, because the mailman mixed our mail up a lot over here. So, because I have opened mail that wasn't mine, unintentionally. So I take a picture of the mail to make sure it's mine. And then I can switch it from that menu choice to another one, which is long text. And it will actually take a picture of the letter and read the whole letter. So that app is very useful, and also can read money, paper money, colors of shirts and pants, and colors of the room, the rug, so it can identify colors. It has a barcode identifier, which will allow me to read packages in the grocery store and tell me what's in it, what the product is.
Robert, are
And
you
then-
talking about Seeing AI right now? We had a question about what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
I'm sorry, did I not say that?
Oh, that's okay.
No,
You did. We just missed it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's called Seeing, Seeing AI. It is made by Seeing AI. It's made by Microsoft. And it is free. It's not only for the blind, you can use it for people who do not read well, seniors, who have difficulty, who are colorblind. So like the previous presenters or one of the other presenters said, these apps may say, for the blind, but the uses transcend throughout the community, throughout situations. A lot of people think it's pretty cool. I use JAWS, which is a screen reader on my computer, and it reads all the text that is on the computer screen. Text under icons, documents, You might have heard Jaws announcing who was coming into the meeting, who was leaving the meeting. It'll read emails. It's not free, but there are ways to get around the prices. Um, and it's well worth the investment. It's about $850 for the software. It's it's one of the best in the world. It's used worldwide by visually impaired people all over the country and the world. So it's a very efficient piece of software for people with visual impairments or people who do not read typical print. And what was the other one?
Microsoft Soundscape, was that one that you?
Yeah, Soundscape is a navigational app that I use for when I'm going somewhere I'm not familiar with. I will type in the definition or actually tell it where I want to go, the address, plans the route. And then as I roll along down the sidewalk, it'll tell me what's around me. It'll tell me what street I'm at, Reading Road in Dana. Tell me what direction I'm going. It'll tell me if I'm near a bus stop or not. So I'll cross the street and go to the bus stop. Once I'm on the bus is where it really helps me out, because it'll read every street, side street, intersection, bus stop, and that's very helpful. When the app first came out about 4 years ago, it didn't tell you bus stops. But now, because it can tell you bus stops, I'll know where to get off within a block. So it tells you everything around you. For instance, if I'm at the corner of Victory Parkway and Martin Luther King, it'll tell me the name of both of the streets, and it'll tell me what's on all four corners, areas or buildings within the next block ahead of me. In some incidences, it'll tell you things that are behind you, so you'll get a gist of where you are at. This app is also primarily for the blind. It's made by Microsoft as well. It's free, but it can be used for people with cognitive disabilities who have difficulty with traveling on their own and getting lost. You can set it up to where it will, for instance, like if I leave the house and I want to go to Walgreens, it'll have a planned route already in store for Walgreens. It remembers where the Walgreens is. So it's just like a GPS system, but it talks. I wear headphones so it doesn't freak people out and people think I'm crazy, listening to this weird voice. And it works best with a good pair of headphones. But those are the three primary, I can't talk, apps that I use at this point. There are a few others I use. Someone was talking about an app that the Google Maps. I use an app called Life 360, and it's also a Microsoft app that allows you to keep track of, friends and family. My mom and I use my mom's going to be 77, and so I like to know where she is at all times.
Mhm.
And it's another app that you have to have consent with, but it also, I can see where she is as long as she's got her phone on her. And she answers the phone, I know where she is. Whether she's at Walmart, whether she's, if she goes out of town, I know where she's at. So it's a very efficient app as well. And then vice versa, she can always see where I'm at. She calls me on occasion and tells me, you need to put your phone on the charger. The battery's low. So she can see all the aspects of where I'm at and what I'm doing. That's basically it. I've got a lot more, but we don't have time for all that. So if you want to get in contact with me, I'm sure my contact information is on the PowerPoint.
I'm sure, Robert, you would agree that a lot of times with apps, it's kind of trial and error. The good thing is that a lot of them are lower cost, so it's easier to download an $8 app and realize that it's not necessarily what you needed than buying a whole piece of equipment and then realizing it. So sometimes you just have to download it, try it out, see if it's what you need, and just keep doing that until you find the right one. But there's millions of them out there, and they're always getting better. And going back to the one device that we were talking about for adults or not, I would say it's always good to ask for these things. Ask the developer, like contact the person that makes the device and tell them you're interested, because the more they hear that there's a need for this type of piece of equipment for an adult, they're going to do it if they know that there's going to be a market for it. So I'm sure that that's exactly how some of these apps that Robert's been using have improved over time. It's by getting feedback from people who are using it. So I would say, make sure you're vocal about what you need and contact the companies that make them just for kids or whatever, so that they can modify them for the adult community too. All right, Adam, your turn.
Companies recruit people to try out their products and give them feedback. So Microsoft and Apple, all the big companies, they recruit people, and they actually have people who specialize in accessibility for people with disabilities on their staff. They have a whole crack team that's all they do is focus on accessibility.
Am I up?
Yeah, thank you, Robert.
All right, you guys hear me okay? Awesome. Well, my name is Adam Shoemaker, and I'm going to talk briefly about some smart home technology, and I'm sure a lot of you guys use a lot of this already in your home, so I'll try to make it short and sweet. But if you have any questions, just throw them out, or you can email me later. But we'll start with cameras, because I think we get a lot of, and Josh from Hamilton County can kind of confirm that we get a lot of requests for cameras, because it is one of the best ways to kind of keep an eye on your home. If you have children, you want to see when they get home. It's a very effective tool if you're comfortable, with some of the privacy issues that you're hearing about out there. But you got Google, Nest cameras, Arlo, Ring are probably the biggest, companies out there, and some of the best that we've used in the past. Google, one of the nice things about their cameras is they do have some facial recognition, and I have a doorbell at my house, and it can memorize, your family or neighbor faces, and it can alert you who's at your door. We put a lot of those out in different homes for individuals. just so they're aware of kind of who's coming to the door and if they know that person. I wouldn't say it's a perfect solution, but it's pretty darn good from a facial recognition standpoint. Arlo's a good camera as well. It's a wireless battery powered camera, which is nice if families don't want to worry about running power. It's got some great technology as well. And then Ring, which is actually owned by Amazon now, it works really well with the Amazon ecosystem, doorbells, mostly focused on doorbells from their standpoint. But I mean, cameras are a great way. We just went out of town last week, and I have some Google cameras, and we had someone coming to watch the cat. You know, I could get notifications if someone's at the front door, which also ties well into some other stuff I'll talk about. But and then some of the smart home kind of hubs and displays. You know, the most popular obviously are the Amazon Echo family. They're large. Some are larger, some are smaller. You can view your cameras on those. You know, Google also has a couple smart home displays. A good example, I use one of the smaller ones here at my house. I use it as a baby monitor, so it's next to the bed, and I have a Google camera in my kids' room, and it's just on all night, and it's got great night vision, so I can kind of look over, and if he's screaming, decide if I want to go in or not. And so it's a nice, it works well together. So the Google ecosystem is going to work well together. If someone comes to your front door and you have a Google Nest Hello doorbell, it'll automatically pop up on one of your smart home displays who it is, or if it doesn't know the person. You can answer the door right from there as well. You can even unlock the door from the smart home display, the smart hub display. There are also speakers, which are a lot cheaper. I'm sure we all have a lot of the smaller Echo Dots, and throughout the house play music, reminders, notes. You know, you can schedule a lot of your day, grocery shopping lists, any type of list you want to do. Calling obviously is a big thing, I think, with all these devices. I really like the Amazon drop-in and calling options. I think our folks get a lot of use out of that. A very cheap way of connecting without having to pay some type of subscription costs. Being able to either call or drop in on your family member is pretty cool. And you could do all that. Obviously, these displays can do video calling and you know, display video if you're looking for a recipe. They can control all your smart home automation as well. And the really only difference between obviously the actual smart home display and the speakers is the display will give you more visualization as to what you're doing. Timers will show on there, cameras, any lists, calendars. So, you know, I have mine in the morning, kind of reads me off my calendar for the day. So it really, you know, I use it a lot myself, and I think it's a lot of folks are starting to really utilize either the speaker option or the display option. And you know, going into that, obviously these can all there's a multitude of smart sensors or outlets or locks that tie into all this stuff. A good example is like the August smart lock. It's one you can obviously unlock that remotely. I used it when I was out of town last week. I have one on my door, so if I see someone at the door, I need to let them in to take care of the cat. I can do that remotely. I can even give them a guest pass to unlock the door. But one of the cool things about the August, which we used for a situation, we had a young man that his mom worked in the morning and he needed help getting to and from work. It will auto lock the door. So after a certain amount of time, it'll lock the door. He doesn't remember to lock the door, so it'll auto lock behind him. And then when he gets home, it'll know based on his, you know, on the app that he's home. It'll auto unlock the door for him because he has trouble with keys and locks. So it's worked out really well. You know, I have one at my house and it works really well for me. So I was hoping it'll work out well for him, and it has so far. And you know, maybe it's not a perfect situation, but it's great because it'll kind of unlock that door for you when you get home and auto lock it and alert you if it's been unlocked. And there's a lot of different lock options out there that work with all these ecosystems. But I would say locks, and obviously any type of sensor can be controlled or outlet. If you want lights to come on when you get home, if you want lights to shut off when you're going to bed, if you want locks to lock automatically at a certain time, garage doors can be closed at a certain time. All those work really well together. Can be voice controlled or controlled from the app, depending on what you're more comfortable with. And of course, tablets and smartphones. I mean, all these can be controlled from an app or a smartphone or a tablet. I think tablets, like kind of Molly talked about, from a communication standpoint, there's a lot of cool things you can do from that. And all these ecosystems have apps where you can view cameras and look at your smoke detectors and be alerted on your smartphone if there's motion in your house or your door opens, or your doorbell rings. So anything and everything can go right to your smartphone and kind of keep you posted on what's going on at home. Again, we see this a lot for folks who have children and they're working and they want to keep an eye on them or know when they're home, so they can help them get in remotely and make sure they're home safe. And then most of an Android or an iPhone can be paired to a smartwatch. Smartwatches for us are really about more GPS locating or fall detection. It's a little sharper way of kind of keeping tabs on somebody. The iWatch has fall detection kind of built in. The number 4 does, number 5 and 6 will as well. So very cool for folks who have who are at fall risk. It'll automatically call for help if a fault is detected. So simple things like that are pretty cool that can tie to your phone and to your smart home ecosystem. So, I'll keep it short and sweet, but a lot out there, a lot that can be done. But those are some of the things I think that we see a lot of that people want to utilize and get a lot out of.
Adam, are any of these covered by level 1 waiver? That was a question that just came up.
Yeah. I think we do a lot of level 1 waivers, and Josh, we work with Josh a lot, and yeah, absolutely.
And is there an Android fall detection watch?
I'm not sure. We don't we haven't put a lot of the Android watch is out in the field, but let me find out.
Okay. Thank you.
John, are there any other questions that would go along with Adam's stuff?
Is there someone that we can work with to assess our needs and determine what would work best? That's a nice transition.
You guys are doing really great transition questions. Lisa, do you want me to talk about waiver?
Sure, yeah. And to answer we'll get to that question after we first do the funding. So yeah, Molly, if you could talk about waiver, that would be great.
So within all 3 of the Medicaid waivers, there is a budget specific for assistive tech. We do have assistive tech, 3 services within the assistive tech realm. There's a consultation, the technology piece itself, and then a support service. I don't know that we have found many approved vendors who provide the support service, but in theory, once we have vendors, that will be a super helpful service, because that actually provides ongoing training to the people using it to make sure that they're actually using the equipment and it's helping them, and not just getting it and then they don't use it because they can't figure it out. Within Hamilton County, we kind of do the consultation piece internally, and Josh will talk about that in a second, but there's 2 quirky things with getting your waiver to cover anything, and it basically is, it has to be something to meet an assessed medical need. And when I say medical, I don't mean like a health need, but it's a need. It's not just for enjoyment that you want this device. And it also has to be the lowest cost way of meeting the need. So what we generally say that people should do is, instead of coming to us with an idea of the exact piece that they want, if it's waiver funding, we really have to understand what the problem is. And then Josh will work to figure out what the lowest cost solution is. With Medicaid, it always has to be the lowest cost thing. So that's, people see that the great tech out there, but if a lot of the bells and whistles are more just convenience and enjoyment, and the person only needs one aspect of what this device does, we'll probably say the waiver can cover this because that meets what your need is. If you want something fancier for enjoyment, that's not something that the waiver would generally cover. But there is a $5,000 cap within those 3 waivers for assistive tech.
And then for the people in Hamilton County who are not enrolled on waivers, these are 2 programs that are specific to Hamilton County. One is our Technology Assistance Program, which we call TAP. And to be eligible for that program, it could be any age, any living situation. It would just be specific to people not enrolled on waivers. And that offers then $500 annually for any of the tech that we have talked about that, again, meets a need, not necessarily a want or a convenience, but if it's meeting a need that the technology would help out, we can either do a reimbursement method with families or individuals, or if we're able to, we will pay upfront if we can work it out with the vendor. So the technology that I was talking about earlier, we have that worked out with Goalie, for instance. They have some of these items have like monthly subscriptions and things like that. So with the Goalie, we've worked out a lifetime subscription. It comes out to be $497. That just works out perfectly, but you get the device and other things like the TikTok watch and do have monthly fees associated with them. So, but that has been really helpful. We also have our Family Support Services Program, or FSSP. FSSP is in many counties, and each county kind of sets up a different eligibility and what it pays for and how much. So in Hamilton County, it's $500 annually. And we, people who are in Hamilton County, as long as they're living at home with family, doesn't matter if it's an adult or a child, people with no waivers are eligible for that program, and people with level 1 waivers are eligible for that program. So we have sometimes used both the TAP program and FSSP. If something that a family wants, it's a little bit more expensive and it's out of the budget for the TAP program, well, then we'll use a little bit of extra money from FSSP. But that program can also pay for technology as long as it's related to a disability and based on a need, not necessarily just a want. So both of those programs can be accessed by talking to the SSA and asking, you know, if they qualify and if it's a good fit for those funding streams.
Are there income limitations on those, either of those?
No. There used to be an income thing with the FSSP, but that's been gone for a few years. Any other questions about those funding streams? Otherwise, Josh?
And Josh, you might be able to speak to Lori's question about who do I get in touch with to get started on smart home devices to see what's best for her son living at home.
I would reach out to her SSA who makes a referral. Does that individual have a waiver?
I'm not sure Lori could type that in. Can you speak to both though? They do have a waiver. Mhm.
Sorry, I'm new with this stuff, so I don't know if you can hear me. Yes, my son lives at home and he does have a level 1 waiver. So I'm just learning this. It's very interesting, and I'm glad to be seeing all this. But I'm trying to figure out where do I start then. Yeah.
Gotcha. You would make a referral to your SSA about what the challenges are. Then I would come out to see the house. So my role is to help individuals and families in the county with get home mods and equipment. In this conversation, I'm talking about assistive technology that I assist with. I get the awesome job to go out and meet the families and try to come up with some solutions. So in the case like you would have a need, you would talk to your SSA, they would make a referral, and then we come out to kind of see what kind of solutions we can come up with.
SSA
Molly,
through the county?
yeah, your SSA through the county is the one that
This
makes the
service
referral.
provider. Okay, all right.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And so what we do is we try to link up to all the different cool stuff that's out there and kind of narrow down what is needed, and then try to figure out a solution to kind of bridge the gap between waiver or vendors and trying to obtain the equipment. So my team kind of goes out, figures out what is needed, and then try to come up with the best solution to come up with the product that might work for you. Like Molly said, there's pieces of it. So some of the stuff that we could come up with, the guy that's coming to repair my lift just showed up. I have a ceiling lift that I'm getting repaired for a family, and I have it at the house. So I'll be really quick. Let me just tell the guy. I'll be one second. Molly, you keep talking for 2 seconds while I go tell the guy. He's ringing my doorbell like 3 times.
One thing that probably we should clarify is that all of the like smart home technology that Adam talked about, all of that stuff can be, there's always like this component of somebody, a third party, somebody helping that person and overseeing that person. If you as the family member natural support are able and want to be the one like getting the alerts like, oh, the door was just opened, then that's just a straight technology referral. And that, so we say to start with your SSA so they can ask the questions and figure out, do we go for remote supports or do we go for just tech? And remote supports is when we use smart home technology and there's a third party vendor, company, agency who is monitoring the activity from a remote site. That's generally for people with higher needs and with family who cannot do that oversight at the level that they need. But it's more expensive and it's hard. You can get a few hours a week covered of that service on the level 1. So that would be more something that we could put more in place of if they had a self or an IO. But if all they need is the tech and like the sensors, the cameras, the tablet, that would all talk to an app on your phone, then you just tell the SSA and they'll put in a referral to Josh, and then he'll come out and see what specific pieces would work best. If you feel that you need the remote supports component, then what we say is the SSA will tell you if there's budget for that. And if there is, then we would go straight to the companies that provide remote support so that they can come out and talk about the equipment that's compatible with their specific systems that could meet the need. All right, Josh, I just filled in for you.
You did awesome. The guy just drove down from Toledo to fix this person's lift. So I was kind of like, don't leave my house because it's 3 hours away. So one thing I wanted to say is there's a link called, or AT Ohio is assistive technology from Ohio. They have a lending library where they can try out different things and you can try them out as a family. If you just Google search AT Ohio, they have all kinds of different products that you can kind of look on their website for assistive tech. They do like I think it's a month trial where you can try something out to see if it'll work before you buy it. There's been a couple devices that like a pen reader. I've had a family try it out first. You don't want to pay $200, find out you don't like it. So the family tried it out and actually really liked it. So then we used the waiver to buy it. They have on their website, they kind of have a list. You can give the call to them and they'll talk you through like what some of the different options they have. It's another good resource that families can utilize. It's free to figure out whether it's something they want to use. But the biggest thing I would say on my end is there's all kinds of new stuff coming out. We just kind of continue to learn. And for us, it's the industry is continuing to develop stuff. And the great news is a lot of it's really cheap. So a lot of low-tech solutions we can come up with, help the families out. So that's about all I had because Molly and Lisa covered most of the other piece.
Well, thank you, Josh. I appreciate that. And I just one last question because I do think this is important. Who do you contact if a person does not have an SSA? Molly or Lisa or Josh?
You can give me a call. I don't mind talking to the mom and dad over the family over the phone and say, hey, this is what some of the stuff is going on. My contact information should be on I don't know if it's on the PowerPoint, but you can add it.
Here we go.
Yeah, I mean, I get all kinds of calls about, hey, this is what's going on, and I might make a referral to something else, or, just kind of tell you, hey, call Adam. Adam's got some great solutions, or call Molly, So I don't mind taking a call if somebody's got a question about something.
Appreciate that. Okay. Well, we are at or a little bit over our time, so I will tell you that I've taken notes from your chat, and I'm going to add the additional apps in the email that I send alongside this PowerPoint and a couple other resources. So I just wanted to, can you maybe stop sharing for a second, Lisa? Okay, so if we could just give a round of applause, unmute yourself, because these guys did an amazing job. I really appreciate their work, so yay, speakers. So, and please join us for our next session I believe we're shooting for next month, and it really is about supports in the home. We've talked a lot about the actual accessible housing, how to modify, but that's going to be an opportunity about supports in the home. So I'm wishing everybody a wonderful day, and thanks for being with us. If you want to stay on, I'll leave it open for a little while for talking, but I know people have other meetings and places to be. So